Sharma. I'm heading the technology function at Huawei. First of all, thank you to Guru and the community for giving us an opportunity to share our perspectives. So, what we're going to share in 10 minutes is what is our sort of strategic perspective on the controller framework, open source controller framework, and then specifically about ONOS. We'll also talk about a little bit about tactics as to projects, what specific areas we're going to sort of delve into, POCs or use cases, etc. And then we have a demo, a video version of the demo, so we'll play it up. We could not get it live due to the logistics, etc. So during last sort of a couple of months, there's a general belief in the companies, that open innovation. This is an area of open innovation. So what does that mean is basically, the way we develop the solutions, the way sort of the solutions are consumed by our customers. So that's going to change dramatically. So that belief is actually throughout the company, we see that it's being resonated across the BUs also. So there's an incredible amount of focus from the entire company into saying how we use the open innovation and how we tie it, more importantly, to the portfolio. Because historically, many vendors, including us, have been having a siloed team. There's an innovation team, there's a solution team. So typically you run proof of concepts and standardization, etc. in one area, and that hand do not talk to the product management area. So you have this future network architecture solutions and systems architectures, which is cooked in a more of the one silo, and that hand do not talk to the others. And that's where when the rubber hits the road, when you actually do the deployment and proof of concepts and use cases, you don't see those things being sort of getting productized. So that's one area where we thought we were going to address that up front. And then, as I said, there's a huge amount of focus from the entire company. The focus is such that we have an open source steering group, which is led by one of our rotating CEO. And we do track on the monthly basis the progress of each of the open source initiatives, including ONOS. So what we mean by open innovation could mean different to different. So let me be very specific here. So these three initiatives within this context, I will talk what it means to the open innovation and how do we plan to tie that with our portfolio or do the portfolio transformation. First thing is what we think is the architecture and standardization synergy. So when we say architecture and standardization synergy, it's the architecture of how the ONOS architecture will influence our homegrown controller architecture. When we deploy our architectures, when we sort of use those use cases for the specific customers, when we start deploying those into the customer environments, how will it influence? How we will step by step sort of take evolve our controller, how we'll evolve our applications, how we'll evolve our infrastructure. We still have legacy devices to manage, and then there would be gray boxes, there would be white boxes, and then any boxes, etc. So how do we sort of transform towards the infrastructure layer? So architecture synergy, standardization synergy. So we not only will sort of have these teams which are working in the ITFs of the world, but also the folks who are working in the Open Networking Foundation will work closely with the developers, which means the network architects, the people in the standardization will work very closely with the coders. And that's what we mean that you could sort of start creating an impact on the business side, on the portfolio side. So that's the architecture and standardization synergy, both on the business side and technology. Second is use cases driven product feature velocity. So when we do specific use cases, how do we influence that product, and then what sort of business model we deploy? So that's going to be our sort of second area of focus in open innovation in the context of ONOS, and I'll get to it in a minute what I mean by that by an example there. And the third one is the new business models or new use cases which are non-traditional service providers, like we have a customer like Alibaba, and then we are planning to have some talk in that area within the OSS domain. Hopefully we should be able to sort of showcase during during the next couple of quarters during that. So let me get into the specific sort of strategic plan, what we have for next year for ONOS and beyond. So in the three planes, what we have: infrastructure plane, control, management, and application plane. In the infrastructure, the strategy is very, very clear with ONOS as well as with the other partners. It is basically enhance our hardware abstractions. I mean, we have boxes which have virtually no hardware abstractions. We have boxes which have a quasi or semi hardware abstraction. We're looking into different means and ways of using protocol oblivious forwarding and such like, what are these hardware abstractions, and basically evolve our hardware strategy around that. We're also looking at the chipset programmability and exposure issues, and that's where we are going to work with the startups as well as different companies within that context from the hardware and the infrastructure point of view. And some of the POCs use cases will be also falling into that space. Control and management plane. So I mentioned that we have a homegrown controller, what we call SNC. So what we intend to do is we will integrate ONOS with Huawei SNC controller for service provider market during 2015. So that's the commitment. We have it from the management, and we have articulated this commitment very, very clearly to Guru and the team. And that's our plan, at least to go with a couple of service providers, the use cases, what we're going to do in an integrated fashion. The reason for doing so is that we have already done some legwork using SNC, so we do not basically throw that work away, and we start using that work in the context of ONOS and see how we can tie the backward compatibility. Integrate Huawei OSS BSS system, and then obviously by working with the partners and also working with the community, which is sort of non-traditional telco community, and bringing that community along with the OSS BSS with the both AD cell as well as MD cell models, using the APIs as well as the model-driven sort of use cases. We will bring our own sort of set of partners also, and we'll encourage them to use ONOS as well as SNC to sort of create specific models or enhance specific those APIs which might be applicable in those cases. Application plane. So we have sort of a vision paper which we have published, and there would be more information coming out in the China SDN Industry Alliance, where will be a set of applications where we will be launching called Huawei App Store and the Partner App Store. So that Huawei App Store and Partner App Store, we intend to build at least 1 or 2 apps in the next 3 to 6 months or 1 year using ONOS. So now getting into the specific areas, what is our execution plan for ONOS project 2015? Drive synergies between ONF, ONOS, and SNC, right? We do not want that, the specifications what we're working on a northbound interface, they don't tie to the ONS and SNC. That's the work is done in isolation or so that there will be a great sort of a synergies we'll be trying to drive in that direction. We'll dedicate both the architecture team and the developer team. So typically we see the strengths of, especially when it comes to the use cases, network architects know the service provider networks from years of deployment experience, design experience, etc. Whereas the developers have a very, very good understanding of the new word and how code is written. So we want to marry these two words together and have those complementary strengths working together, because on one hand, does not know what are the issues when you actually migrate the service provider networks. That I genuinely believe that will help us transition or help us deploy ONOS faster into the service provider network. Joint customer, partner, and community POC execution, and the POCs which we are proposing along with the customer or a potential partner. We may start the POC with ONOS within the community to start with the basic framework, and the IP RAN example, what we're going to show is very much using the ONOS and Huawei. But moving forward, what we're going to, the POCs, what we're going to show is going to be 3-way, 4-way, or multiple partners using that. 2 use cases very focused on service provider market, and that would be from real requirement. And one, it would be most likely in the IP RAN, extension of the IP RAN, and second, most likely it's going to happen in the OSS BSS space. So that's what we think is the sort of a natural focus for the next year. And this is also driven from some of our customers' requirements who are asking for similar requirements from us. And continue working on the current use cases and complete in the first quarter SDN IP RAN demo, the network provisioning part, and VPN sort of app ONOS connection, and then IP optical synergy, sort of, you know, how we're going to extend that multi-layer, also working with the partners, and how we sort of put that code, which is sort of more transparently available to the wider audience. So future directions, in a nutshell, in the controller, we are driving towards modular architecture. We'll still continue to work on our own value proposition, because that's where we think we're going to make money. Otherwise, you know, everyone here in the room, especially the vendor community, they are there for a reason that, of course, that needs to complement their business, but that also have to be based on merits and why customer will use that, which is above and beyond, and having your products and solutions ready. So we will have a modular architecture. We will contribute and leverage the community code, where it will be flexible for our community to use, and that gives us a vendor interoperability, and that also gives us ability to work and build a sort of industry, sort of standardized and cohesive solution ecosystem. We think ONOS will bolster the China SDN Industry Alliance ecosystem. That's to start with, and we have a couple of partners lined up in that way. We'll do some joint use cases in the internet.org, and also working with Microsoft as well as China Mobile in that. New business models, as well as the new sort of trialing the new sort of business models into the cloud service provider context, which is not traditional service providers, etc., and DC consolidations. So I mentioned a couple of times the SDN Industry Alliance in China. So these are sort of, these service providers, non-traditional telecom sort of service providers, as well as some cloud providers. So they are sort of, the part of the consortium. We obviously would welcome any other partners who would like to sort of explore the opportunities to work or in collaboration with us with any of these customers. But we strongly think that bringing those use cases here, that will also give us the different flavor of different market, and vice versa. We'll take we'll leverage the use cases and sort of deploy those use cases into the China market. So that's all I have. I don't know if there is a room for questions at all. If not, then we will do no, absolutely fine. So we'll just run the talks, and then I'm here if there are any further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ayush.
Thank you.
Are you going to run the video first? Let's run the video first if you can.
That's so that's
it's a plan.
Okay.
Just to try and see what happens. It's
double click on the video.
okay. It's
The volume and
it's no voice.
You haven't plugged in the little thing.
Oh yeah.
Does it work? Plug it in.
Yeah, it works. So it's missing. Okay. So okay. Yeah. So we need
Technologies to manage this network.
okay. Start.
Welcome to the demonstration of SDN IP solution.
Actually, before we are running this, so the one thing I want to point out is in the morning, the Al from the AT&T talk about this MPLS IP MPLS network is the critical asset of the AT&Ts. Okay, the Toms from AT&T's also highlight their solutions for the MPLS network is the overlay. So the Huawei's demo is running here. Basically, we're running some things. We're using the controllers is the ONOS empowered controllers. So to provision the MPLS network and add the layer 3 service on top of it. So basically it's the thing. Okay, hopefully you can enjoy this. Oh, one more thing is our equipment is in China. That's why we have to run the videos over here.